as a founding team, three of us have believed in driving true thought leadership in the industry. We don't believe in doing things at the surface level. We believe in going deep. So immense amount of KOLs are coming, and we're going to create a lot of real thought leadership content.
Zeebu's an initiative to actually maximize the convergence point of real-world assets and real-world utility that Web3 is at today. And we feel an inherent responsibility to ensure that this convergence point and this point of inflection really doesn't get lost.
My name is Megan Nelson, aka Crypto Megan, coming to you from Bitcoin Nashville. I am here with the Zeebu team. Today we have a really special podcast prepared for you in which we're going to go through a little bit about what Zeebu is, what Zeebu does, a huge success at this conference, incredible side event that pulled off at Topgolf Nashville. We met a lot of amazing people, and I'd like to welcome the team, the co-founder and CMO Raghav, the CEO and founder Raj, and the co-founder and COO Keshav. Welcome to the show, guys. How has it been here in Bitcoin Nashville?
Phenomenal. It has been a dream run. Thank you so much, first of all, for the collaboration at the Topgolf. I think we are the talk of the town. Every single person I met in Nashville, the moment we say, hey, we are the founding team, founders, co-founders of Zeebu, they are like, wow, you guys did a fabulous job in the party. I think Topgolf was amazing. The brand recall is all-time high. And I think there are only two things people are talking about, Zeebu and Donald Trump. So has been a fabulous event for us. I'm sure my fellow founders, co-founder will talk more about the technology aspect, the launch and all of that. But from a marketing standpoint, from the optics and from the depth that we have achieved in this conference, I think it has been amazing. Every single conference, I feel we are raising the bar higher and higher. Consensus was fabulous. Token was great. Bitcoin has been unparalleled. I think, thanks to all the partnerships, all the collaborations we had, but phenomenal and fabulous event.
Oh yeah, I mean, I will attest to that. Zeebu is the name heard around the conference. I mean, the side event at Topgolf, produced by you guys, it was phenomenal. We had a great partnership there. All of the top people showed up, and everybody said, Zeebu, what is Zeebu?
Yeah.
I want to know more about Zeebu because they're seeing it everywhere. And that's kind of why we're here now, to dig into exactly what you guys do, is everybody's talking about it. And so I'm really glad to have you guys here today so we can get into that. Raj, how you feeling?
So I'm going to use some sports analogies.
Okay.
Right? Because I like sports. So think about Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan, and Tom Brady, right? And guys like them. Djokovic, right? For every leader, athlete, doesn't matter, high-performing companies, there's a period of time where you're working on a set of 10 things, right? Those 10 things aren't being achieved simultaneously. Maybe one thing is, two things are, three things are, but your roadmap is being set up to achieve all of them at the same time.
Right.
And what currently with, the upcoming election, with the things that Trump announced, we've seen the crypto markets, we've seen the dollar inflows that are coming in, we've seen the other companies that are popping up, both in payments, PayFi as a whole is growing, RWAs are growing, real world consumption is growing, and most importantly, for the past year, like top athletes, leaders, and companies, Zeebu's been working on setting up those 10 things internally.
Yeah.
So when the rest of the world is ready for it, we're at the convergence point. So I think for the past year, we've been preparing for that game, that match, and that launch. And Zeebu's finally here, where all those 10 things are falling parallel for us, and we're the talk of the town, as Raghav mentioned.
Yeah, I like one thing you brought up, for the past year. You guys have been building, grinding behind the scenes, and people are seeing things everywhere, and they're like, wow, this seemed to have popped up overnight. But you've been building in the background and waiting until it's ready to release to the world. And now we're here, the tech is ready. I mean, it's been ready, you guys have processed. I'd like to hear first off, before we get into the details, because it's really exciting about what you've accomplished. What exactly is Zeebu? What do you guys do? We'd like to give the audience a little bit of context.
So I'll keep it basic, right? Today, when you want to do a cross-border payment using traditional payment rails, out of emerged markets, it'll take you 3 to 5 days, relatively low banking fees. Forex conversion fees can be high, can be low, depends on who your mediating firm is or institution is. Emerging markets, that's not really the case. It can take anywhere up to 16 days. In some cases, I've seen a month. And after 16 days to a month, your transaction might just get returned to you. Maybe there's an error on your end, error on the bank's end, highly complex, and that's just operational hindrance, right? Now you also go into the monetary issues when forex conversion rates can be very high. Banking charges can also be relatively higher, and the cost of operation for finance teams within organizations and institutions is also going up year over year due to multiple reasons. So at Zeebu, we identified that problem initially. That was the one problem that we identified, and that was kind of the root of Zeebu, right? And that's how we came up with a cross-border settlement system for telecommunications companies that enables them to do settlements of almost any value within 10 minutes to almost any country, to all of their counterparties, and they are also able to do instantaneous withdrawals. And that is how we have enabled 110 wholesale voice and SMS institutional telecom clients to do over $3.3 billion in transactions from July 2023 to July 2024. So at a basic level, that's what we do. I mean, further within the podcast, we'll go over how we do it, right? But going back to what you mentioned earlier, if you can remind me a little bit, right before you asked me, what does Zeebu do? You mentioned something.
Yeah. I was saying you've been building for a year,
right?
You know, in the background, and you guys have really put a lot of work into making sure that things are great before we launch that second part where you come out the road and you say, hey, the rest of the world can get involved in this now too somehow.
Yeah.
So you've been building for these telecom giants to be able to settle these cross-border payments. I mean, it's huge. We've had this technology around for a long time, but never have I seen it implemented in such a way in, you know, the Web2 world that's actually providing this solution and these rails. It's actually quite transformative for everybody in this industry. So,
I mean, look, just giving a little bit of background on what we've been doing for the past year. It's not that we've been doing it, you know, in the background. We haven't kept it in a stealth mode. It's just we chose our demographic that needed to see it at the time, so we could bring it to a wider set of demographics. The Web3 world didn't need to see it yet because there was no way for them to resonate with it. There was no way for them to interact with it. First, we needed to produce real value and then augment the series of different utilities we can provide to the Web3 world and initiatives we can bring there. So we started, you know, relatively heavy marketing, business development within the telecommunications world. We picked a niche market. This is a mistake most companies make, right? Most companies will go into a VC's office, say, here's a $2 trillion market. We're going to capture all of it, right? And then they walk away with nothing.
Right.
They capture maybe $2 million of it.
Yeah.
We looked at, you know, at a macro level, we looked at telecom, $1.8 trillion, right? But telecom's a lot of things. It's infrastructure, communications, you know, to some degree, also mobile wallets, remittances, etc., right?
Yeah.
But then there's a smaller piece to it, but a very important piece too, right? There's no competition for this piece as of right now, realistically, which is the wholesale voice, SMS, and data industry. Who are these guys, right? So, Megan, you live in Spain. Let's assume you're a Vodafone user.
Yes.
Right? I live in New York. I'm an AT&T user. You know, me and you, we talk all the time. We talk about ideas. We work together on different things. When you want to give me a call, there's an issue because you're a Vodafone user. I'm an AT&T user. Vodafone and AT&T are domestically focused on the domestic markets, right? So what they do is now they outsource these cross-border voice SMS data services to wholesale carriers and providers. And these wholesale carriers and providers enable people like me and you to communicate all over the world. And these are the guys that we chose to work with. Why? Because their business is almost entirely at a global scale. That means their transactions are at a global scale.
And they're all cross-border.
Exactly.
Right? Most of them, yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So that is the niche market we picked. You ask most people within this market, they know who Zeebu is. They want to be with Zeebu. They're waiting to be onboarded with Zeebu. And later in this podcast and in this conversation, we will talk about how we plan on onboarding them while involving the Web3 world as well. And
That's super exciting. And that's what drew me to you guys is that it's actually a solution that's much needed in the industry. and you're already very successful in doing this. And so now it gives everybody a chance in this industry to form a part of that somehow, which is the exciting announcement that we'll get to. I just wanted to make sure that people understand what essentially Zeebu is and what you guys are doing that is so transformative. So you're enabling those cross-border payments through these telecom through the network, right? Essentially that you described. And you said sometimes it takes up to 16 days. And as I understand it, that sometimes they have to pay a premium on the money that they need to borrow in order to cover those days, or like the whole process that goes into this kind of clunky business that is the old model, and you're allowing them to streamline that. So that's incredible.
I mean, there's three things that we're fixing for these guys right now, right? Number one, business development. So from early 2000s until now, the margins have come from, an average of 35% to now about, 5 to 6%. Why? Because the barrier to entry was relatively lower. So it's not that the market's dying. The CAGR is about 3%, but the barrier to entry was lower, so there's a lot of saturation, right? Now, that also causes business development issues. If my payment isn't getting to my counterparty because the entire market's running on a pre-funding basis, meaning I cannot terminate voice SMS data traffic over to your switch wherever you are, and I cannot trade that route until I pay you beforehand and you give me that allocation. And if I don't pay you in a timely manner, that means you're not going to give me that allocation. You're going to give it to someone else that's going to pay you in a timely manner. And lastly, the whole clunky piece, right? The fees. Now, if my margins have already come down so much, I'm not someone who wants to pay high Forex conversion fees. I don't want to pay high banking charges, right? And even if I'm okay with the banking charges, I'm okay with, the time delay, my counterparty understands, during that time, my counterparty now needs cash. That's the issue. Because the counterparty was expecting receivables and he hasn't gotten them yet, right? So he will have to go ahead and factor his invoice. And when he factors his invoice, now he has to pay interest. What's the issue there? Again, his margins get cut away. So these are the core issues that we are solving for these guys with Zeebu.
That's very fascinating. Really interesting that you've been able to successfully come in and solve this problem. So now you're at more than 3 billion processed. You just crossed that threshold.
Yeah, 3.3.
The number is increasing every minute.
Wow.
While we are speaking on the podcast, maybe a couple of millions are getting added.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, that's a huge thing in this crypto industry.
Absolutely.
It's a huge milestone as a whole that you guys been able to achieve this. So now that you've processed that, I mean, let's maybe transition into the next phase of this, which is now you said that Web3 as a whole can be a part of this and kind of, get involved. So let's transition to that a little bit. And on the stats that you guys have done, it's absolutely phenomenal. Tell us about the stats and what's next for Zeebu and what you just launched and how people can get involved.
Yeah, I'll have Keshav take over.
So far within a year, we have onboarded more than 100 enterprise customers, as Raj mentioned. On the number-wise, gross invoice settlement, we did more than $3.3 billion worth of invoice has been settled on Zeebu platform. Collectively, that has been done via processing 50,000 plus invoices. So the businesses are literally liking the solution overall. And in the entire process, our first focus was to build sustainable revenue and then invite participants to scale the entire ecosystem. So apart from this, we have already crossed more than 500,000 cumulatively on our social media presence, which includes our Twitter, which includes the Telegram channel, all of the socials together. So socially, we are progressing it well, and there are many milestones. So I'll take Raghav's help to define the milestone and the stats towards the marketing side, because it is speaking a lot.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And just to comment how much is at $3.3 billion, you built this out, you have a functioning product, which, in the world where we're at now in this Web3 world, a lot of products haven't matured or gotten to this point at all yet. And you chose to do the opposite. You chose to build first and then scale with Web3 users, which is really also transformative.
Yeah.
Well, before we go into the marketing statistics, I think what would be good is to actually go over the purpose of the protocol.
Yeah.
Because then the marketing data actually makes a lot more sense and there's a lot more purpose behind it, right?
Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, is why are we doing a Web3 integration today? Day one, the entire project's mission was around Web3. We use blockchain technology services that already exist within Web3 to some degree, and did innovation on top of it, created a user abstracted layer and made Web3 friendly for Web2 institutions to use, right? I mean, in my opinion, I don't think there's many companies out there that have been able to do so.
The traditional industry that you are appealing to
Exactly.
that has decided to go for this solution. I mean, there must have been a lot of trust behind your entity and a lot of, factors in place to get such a, traditional society to get involved, right?
Right, exactly. But, like every other institution in Web3, there are certain things that we need to do, that we require in order to continue augmenting the Zeebu ecosystem as a whole. Because the mission wasn't just to enable a $120 billion market. The mission is to enable $7 trillion in global wealth and the next 1 to 3 billion users, right?
Yeah.
So, which is why we're launching the Zeebu Protocol to create our own proof of stake layer, increase the liquidity within the Zeebu ecosystem to enable more initiatives that we already have within our roadmap, and most importantly, create an inclusive system that connects Web 2 and Web 3. If you look at the Zeebu logo, right, you can see that it shows an infinite loop and a bridge between two different dimensions, right? If you look at orange, that's Web 3, blue is Web 2, and we've created an infinite loop between the two. So,
that's very cool.
I mean, I wouldn't speak for Zeebu. I mean, myself and the team, we like to coin the term Web 2.5.
Okay. Yeah, I like to call it. We need go hybrid solutions to enable these blockchain solutions to streamline traditional services.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now, if Raghav could help us with kind of outlaying all the things we've achieved on the Web3 side and the community side.
Yeah.
Yes. You know about this.
This is this is my most favorite part whenever I kind of talk to on the podcast, to the media and all of that. I think we're very humbled, the kind of the response that we have got, the relationships that we have built. The numbers are staggering. I mean, when people look at it, they say, hey, what is that you do with your magic wand that kind of gets you to this number, right? On the financial side, you heard both my very bright co-founder talking about the kind of invoices we have processed, the kind of numbers we have got. On the marketing side, we now have a community of 500,000 folk. I mean, 500,000 people getting associated with the mission is no joke, right? We are building a massive cult of followers who believe in what we are doing. And that's just, across all the different social channels. But if you start, bifurcating and looking at it, our Telegram, our Twitter engagement is probably one of the top 20 in the entire industry. If you look at any tweet, if you look at any of the messages that we put out, there is a huge engagement that we are able to drive. Why are we able to do all of this? This is only because of the kind of meaningful project that we have built, right? The whole real world use case. That is what is driving all of this. Now, what do we have in store? We have a lot of exciting things coming out. I'm sure both of them are going to make that announcement. We are going to have a series of airdrop, largest of its kind that the industry has seen. We have some of the top 100 KOLs come join hands with us. And I mean, you have been an integral part of the whole planning that we've been doing there. So we have massive content that's going to come out. As a founding team, 3 of us have believed in driving true thought leadership in the industry. We don't believe in doing things at the surface level. We believe in going deep. So immense amount of KOLs are coming, and we're going to create a lot of real thought leadership content. So this is a quick glimpse into what future holds for Zeebu and for the new protocol launch from a marketing standpoint. Now I will let both of them talk more detail about what is this whole protocol, what is this whole buzz about, but that's what the stats from the marketing standpoint look like.
All right. I mean, it's fantastic. Over 3 billion transaction volume, right? And then the daily volume is astounding, and that's like processing real world business transactions.
Absolutely.
Which is it's a big step for our industry because up until now we haven't seen this kind of real world implementation. Yeah. So that's something that I absolutely love, and I'm so excited to learn more about as you guys progress, and now the Zeebu Protocol is live. We'd love to hear more about what that entails for the users who can now be a part of this. So why don't you walk us through what that looks like as we're gearing up to help scale, as Keshav said, to scale this operation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at a basic level, there's, as I mentioned earlier, right? When we do an integration between Web 2 and Web 3, there's multiple sets of partners that you need to onboard and create an inclusive ecosystem. So the one thing that has been ignored within Web 3 so far, but not just because of Zeebu, I think Web 3 as a whole is already at this convergence point, is consumptive use of digital assets and blockchain technology. Right? You're not just, people aren't just buying Bitcoin at 30,000 to sell it at 60. They might be buying Bitcoin, Zeebu token and other digital assets to use towards specific services, right? But a set of cryptographers, engineers, and product managers aren't able to fulfill everything that's needed in order to make those services happen. We're finally getting to a point where commercially minded people are creating real services and solutions around the technology and around digital assets. And at Zeebu Protocol, we understand the same thing, that we need all types of people on board to enable and augment services. So we have come out with, as of now, three sorts of participants, right? There's the on-demand liquidity providers. If you look at traditional markets, even if it's retail money, it's still managed by institutions to some degree, right? Why? Because Reg D, Reg S, these regulations exist for a reason. Not because tokens or securities, but more because a lot of people aren't necessarily capable of navigating complexities between multiple industries, right?
Yeah.
Me as someone that isn't very well educated on, let's say, nutrition, I can't really invest into nutrition. I can't really manage nutrition supply chain, assess, shelf life without the proper expertise. So I can allocate my funds, my time, or my resources to someone that actually does understand it. So with the OLP model, we're looking at something similar, wherein any sort of liquidity provider can put money into the liquidity provisioning pool, but institutions and credible market makers will be managing that liquidity to continue fulfilling payments and other initiatives that are added onto the Zeebu protocol, right? We're creating our own proof of stake layer where individuals can come stake ZBU tokens, enable nodes, put invoices and interconnect agreements on chain, and further to that, also vote and allocate votes for the Zeebu ecosystem as a whole. And then for them, there's delegators as well. And I'll let Keshav go ahead and explain our governance model that we have created.
Thanks. So this is the first year anniversary for Zeebu. So within last 1 year, we were focusing on building real business. And now the businesses are there, the consumptions are there, and consumptions are raised. So based on the current consumption commitment from all of the businesses, we need to process $14 billion worth of settlements in next 12 months.
And those are provisions that have already been secured.
Yeah, so this businesses, so right now we have capped our businesses on $200,000 equivalent settlement every day. But they need more limits because the solution is working. The problem statement which we were solving, it is really efficient for their businesses. On top of that, the new industries are coming in to do this mammoth task. So it is not possible, and it is not the philosophy of blockchain and the crypto, because from the day one we started with to create a democratized world and democratized ecosystem. But for that there were two different paths. One, to go with the path which everyone is following, that you come up with the concept now and then start building the community around the concept, and then you go and really do the business.
Right.
That's one path. Other is, let's first build the solution, build real traction on top of it, and then allow other participants and contributors to improvise that entire thought process, so that everyone, when they are putting in their collective energy, that energy is really working for a real mission, which is the problem which really exists. There should not be a situation where after working for a year, we realize okay, the problem which we are trying to solve doesn't exist at all, right?
Exactly. You build first, saw there was a problem, you're a functioning business model. And now you're bringing that to people.
And the challenge was different because we were trying to bring Web3 experience with the enterprises. So they have been witnessing there are blockchainization, tokenization, and payments are getting revolutionized with the blockchain, but they never had attempted to adopt it because it was very complex for them to adopt.
Right.
So for us, it was very difficult task, and it was a challenge itself that even if the solution is perfectly designed, but whether it will be adopted by the critical mass or not, that was one of the other challenge.
Right.
So for our early investor, early backer, Backeye Ventures, Parami, all of the cumulatively decided, let's work with the real mission. Let's build the one. So that exists right now. Now to support and make the growth, we are going with the real world governance structure, similar to the all of the nations we see, that we have elected members. We all are citizens. We have our voting right to select the nominated members, right, who are most capable of. And today we see like Donald Trump is talking about how he will be changing the landscape of the US, how he will contribute to the nation.
Right.
And all of the citizens will decide that whether they want to select him or not. Time will tell us, but the capable candidates will come forward and demonstrate their skill set, that how they will be beneficial. And from this selected candidates, there are different ministries and different bodies which focuses on particular piece of work. So similarly in Zeebu, we are adopting the similar model so that we can overcome the inefficiencies which we have witnessed into the crypto world, that there are companies who are coming in, the crypto projects are coming up with the governance, but they have to struggle a lot for making people participation into the voting process, into the improvisation process. And there are projects which are like Ethereum, Bitcoin, there are classic communities.
Right.
They are proactively driving entire projects without even a DAO. The communities are running the entire ecosystem. So to reach to that level, we are first making this limited access for 300 node runners. So the node runners are, to make it easy, they are on-chain clearing house. So they are validators, they are responsible to settle the transactions. So as Zeebu is a multi-chain token, and to process this 14 billion in transaction volume, we need to have at least 300 TPS in our infrastructural capability, so that at least at any point in time, we can manage the uptime and we can give the highest level of transaction settlement capability to the businesses who are really using it. So for that, we are inviting first set of interested participants that they can become the contributor. Like Bitcoin ecosystem is driven by the miners who validates the transaction, who mine the transaction, and that's where all of the transactions are getting processed, and that's where the decentralization comes in, right? So in our case, we have adopted delegated proof of stake, but we are unique in our nature because we are not a blockchain, we are a protocol. And in the protocol, the essentiality of validator is to make sure the transactions get settled. So for that, we are inviting validators. As Raj mentioned, the other second participant is the OLPs, the on-demand liquidity provider, who will contribute the capital for the settlements. And these validators will make sure that the optimum efficiency they bring in for capital utilization for transaction settlement. Now, the validators will be primarily appoint council members based on their interest areas. So Zeebu will have different councils focused on specific specialization area. Like for securities, we'll have one council. We are thinking to bring councils for marketing. We are thinking to bring councils for KOL. We are thinking to bring councils for finance. We are thinking to bring councils for legal, tokenomics. So eventually, in next 3 months, we are going to talk to stalwarts of the industry with the help of you, Wolf Financial, Arcadia, all of them put together. So we will go and discuss with them that according to you, how the council structure should look like. We are envisioning initially 9 councils, but do you think we should add more or we should reduce some of the council? And what should be the key KPI function we should set? So that in a longer run, Zeebu becomes completely independent, decentralized organization where the new use case adoption can become much easy, and there should not be a permission barrier. So one of the tech contributor in Zeebu is a firm believer. So we are going to announce him. So he is a firm believer. He had contributed into so many open source projects. So he says, like, if we have a real solution, there should not be a barrier. It should be open to everyone so that they can leverage the max potential and we should give back to the open source community, to the community back, right? So that's how the Zeebu principle we are building under the governance. So this 3 month, we are inviting all of the interested participants to be a contributor and invite more and spread more and more awareness, invite more people into the Zeebu governance waitlist, so that finally after next 3 months, we will form up the entire governance council structure, and the top 300 people who are setting up the highest referral points, they will set up the validator node. And this node runners will primarily become play a role like elected members, and they will nominate the professionals for running the different councils. So that is the high level ideation for governance right now, and we will further refine it as we discuss with all of the industry stalwarts.
It's fantastic. You're bringing together all of Web3's most brilliant minds to form these governance councils and to make sure that this kind of process comes to fruition in the most fair, most balanced way possible, most decentralized way possible. I think that's fantastic. I like that you said the word on-chain clearinghouse, right? That's cool. That makes help people understand this more simply. And so the waitlist is now live. People can join the waitlist, help refer people to get involved in this incredible movement that you started. I'm also proud Zeebu Governance Council member, and I'm so excited for this journey. And as these next 3 months, start to develop and people start to understand the significance of what you're doing here, that more and more people join and get interested, get involved. And I'm really looking forward to what's next. And on that note, as we wrap this up, what can we look forward to in the next 3 months? So we've got the wait list is now live. People can join. Anything else you'd like to direct us to as we close this session?
I mean, simply speaking, the waitlist would be the number one thing you would start with, right? It's a journey that we have built for Zeebu Protocol. Because another thing we've noticed within Web3 is a lot of companies stay within stealth mode for a long period of time, build a lot of things, create a large set of content, and then just dump it into the market. And then people have to spend hours and days on end just to get an understanding of it. So the way we looked at it was, look, we've already built this business. It's doing really well. Now we need to create the backbone for it, which is the Zeebu Liquidity Protocol. But as we take this to a wider demographic of people, how do we make sure that they're a part of the journey and they're not just participants at the end of the journey? So the first thing we did was we created this waitlist. Come sign up, start interacting with quests, interacting with educational pieces that we release, get an understanding of what Zeebu is all about. Then we'll go into phase 2. Now that you have an understanding of what Zeebu is all about, now look at what Zeebu is trying to accomplish. The things that you're part of the journey for will be launching as you interact with quests, look at the content that we produce, as we onboard new governance members and nodes are activated, and most importantly, more initiatives are started, right? Because as I mentioned earlier, I won't announce anything yet. As I mentioned earlier, Telecom is today, rest of the world is tomorrow, right? The telecom industry was just a POC, at least from my perspective. There's a lot more to achieve out there. So the waitlist is the starting point for people to be a part of the Zeebu journey. And over the next 3 to 4 months, a significant amount of that journey will have happened, and people will be comfortable to continue interacting with Zeebu and the new initiatives that we come out with. Because now they're not just learning everything at the same time. As bits and pieces come out, they become aware of it.
Right. A way to interact with the brand, learn more, and get involved. And as I understand it, there can be a part or they can join this waitlist and then be running to do these campaigns where there's a pretty big airdrop initiative happening as well. Mm-hmm. And you speak a little bit on that as we finish up here.
Yeah. So at Zeebu, currently if you see the supplies, sufficient supplies out there, but to bring more transaction, it is also important for us to bring more supply into the ecosystem. So this is, in our tokenomics, we have kept 250 million ZBU token reserved for the airdrop, but we hadn't monetized it so far. So now with the protocol waitlist, you can go to protocol.zeebu.com. They're going to give so many different initiatives under the task, and there are airdrop series which is starting. So there's this total 250 million ZBU token will be released in the series of airdrop. There will be different segment, different quests. So all of the contributors will have to stay tuned, be a part of the waitlist, and each time they engage more, they will earn zip points. So each point, the higher points you have, that gives you higher share ratio to claim the Zeebu token into the airdrop. So we have a leaderboard there. So more people you refer, you earn zip point. Well, then after that, after referring, you will you have to stay tuned, visiting every day. You have to be a part of our educational journey, our videos, our Twitter spaces, everything will happen every day. So more you engage, you will get a chance to increase your participation zip points. So each time you engage with Zeebu, we will issue the zip points to you so that it brings more awareness to you. And after that, once everything is ready, the top leaders will be invited in the limited access area to set up the validator node, to set up the on-chain clearing house. And then rest of the public announcement, once the first set of 300 people set up their validator node, we will invite all of the retail participants to delegate and select the stuff out of these 300 nodes. They can go and delegate to top 25 nodes, which are the master nodes. Then they can delegate their capital of ZBU on top of them. So now, what is the importance of this? That needs to be understood. So in entire transaction ecosystem of Zeebu, we collect 2% as a fees.
Right.
And from this 2%, we give 1.4% as a protocol reward. So the yield which is getting generated is not coming from the thin air. It is a real yield given by business. The fresh money comes in, and that's why is the important. And that's where this waitlist is, that the transactions are constantly growing. So if you want to be a part of a real protocol where the yield is getting paid out not from the inflation but from the real business, which is a sustainable one, so that's where you have to join the waitlist. And the yield is going to come into the stable tokens, not in the ZBU token itself, because Zeebu for us is very precious because it is getting utilized into the settlement process. So it's not a freebie we can distribute, but it's meant with the value, right? So all of the participants will earn the protocol reward as a USDC.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's like one of the first cases I've heard, if not the only case I've heard, that has a real functioning business model.
Yeah.
Fresh money comes in, as you said, it's not recycled liquidity, and you get this yield from a real business that's happening behind the scenes. So, I mean, this is to me is like, it's super exciting. I cannot wait for these nodes to go live. The waitlist is live now. People can start getting involved as we anticipate this launch, and it's really exciting. So, guys, it's been incredible talking to you guys today as founders, and you're all visionaries in this space, and we just want to thank you for sharing this with the rest of the Web3 community. We look forward to what's next.
Absolutely.
Thank you. We are super excited.
So before we wrap up, the 3 ways I would define Zeebu Protocol, right? 3 problems as well that we're tackling with Zeebu Protocol is broken governance. Bitcoin, Ethereum, they were started with the dream of decentralization and sustainability. Today, most projects have broken governance, right? Wherein there's multiple types of governance. We'll pick one example wherein token holders are supposed to come vote to make decisions happen. What happens in this case is, number one, most token holders don't care, right? Unless they know what the purpose is and what the end goal is, they don't care. They won't come vote. So what happens is the founding team or the current team, they'll market an idea for a couple of weeks, and then they'll finally put up the proposal. They'll create a groupthink like, architecture, and then finally they'll incentivize voters to come vote, right? So they're just taking a route, the longer route to make a biased decision, right? So it's not decentralized, it is centralized. Number 2 is liquidity. Today, liquidity inflows are very, very low within Web3 compared to what it should be. The market is off balance. But why? Because a lot of projects, what they do is, this is just one of the problems, but a lot of projects, what they do is, in order to incentivize user activity and ecosystem growth, they have their native tokens, right? What do they do with those native tokens? They mint yield. Now, when you mint yield, you see what happens, right? We're seeing it in the United States of America today. So we'll keep it at that. The problem just gets more significant when it comes to digital assets, probably 10x, 20x, because the US dollar actually has something to back it, right? Most digital assets don't. In our case, we have real world transactions happening. We have real world people transacting, and they don't really care whether our native token is going upwards, downwards, or sideways. They will still be utilizing it for the utility that they're coming for, right? So that comes back to my speculation versus consumptive use analogy. And then lastly is to actually create a sustainable ecosystem that isn't founder dependent. So we want people to look at you and think Zeebu. We want people to look at every single governance council member and to some degree token holder and think Zeebu. And they shouldn't think, oh, Raj Brahmbhatt, Keshav, Raghav, these are the three guys that we need to make Zeebu run. We want to get to a point where Zeebu should be running whether we are here or not. Why? Because Zeebu isn't just an initiative to solve some problems. Zeebu is an initiative to actually maximize the convergence point of real-world assets and real-world utility that Web3 is at today. And we feel an inherent responsibility to ensure that this convergence point and this point of inflection really doesn't get lost. Because if Zeebu is going to be a leader here, we have to ensure that our work is sustainable and it's going to continue, even if the current leadership isn't there 30, 40, 50 years from now. There should be new people running the initiative without there being dependencies. So that's the way we look at our current governance program, and that is what Zeebu Protocol is entailed towards.
Wow, that's fantastic. True, and tried and true to the Web3 principles at heart. This is truly something to look out for in this industry, and I think a lot of people will start to wake up to the significance of it as we progress in these campaigns that you're now launching, and it's just all very exciting. So thank you guys again so much for being here, and stay tuned.
Stay tuned and join waitlist.
Thank you.
Thank you.